He's like, I'm good. We're ready for round 2.
Yes, we are ready for round 2, and as soon as the eye pops up to let me know we're on Facebook, I will start it. Takes like 12 seconds now. I don't know why. There we go. Welcome to Paranormal the New Normal. And yes, we are a little bit later than our previous start time, but that's because we had so much fun on the Three Haunted podcast talking about just a whole load of different things. Make sure to check out their episodes to fully hear it. I will be putting it in the show notes for this episode 100%. So, and like I just kind of gave away, my guest tonight in the second part of a crossover event, which I've done these before, you guys know that, is the Three Haunted podcasts. But yet there's only 2 of them, which I may ask about a bit, but they are Ashley Lunar Goddess, which I love that freaking name. That's like the best wrestling. That's the best wrestling diva name ever.
Sweet.
And John Thomas, and
Woohoo.
I love 2 names I can't mess up. So that's perfect. Welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you both here after the fun time we had in your show, and I can't wait to get this started. So let's get it started. And I'll start with Ashley because she seems like the more vocal one from your podcast.
Oh my gosh.
She can be.
A little bit. I talk a lot. Um,
Ashley, what got you into the paranormal to begin with? That's the first question I always ask every guest.
okay. I'm not into the paranormal. No, I'm kidding. Show over. I actually have my whole life. I've actually experienced things that I couldn't explain, and I would try. Trust me, I would try. Okay, not would. I still do try and logic everything away. And sometimes I think I logic it to the point where it's not logical, right? It's completely illogical how logical I'm trying to be. But I've actually been having experiences I couldn't explain since I was a child. Like since I can't, like previous to what I remember, because I have other people that talk about behavior of mine when I was like little, like toddler, that was kind of unsettling to them. Like I was interacting with things that probably were not, like they didn't see anything there, but they could have sworn there was something there based on how I was interacting. So yeah, you call it whatever. Like I have a hard time admitting like it was ghosts. I'm like, I don't know what it was, but I've had weird experiences my whole life.
Right on, which I always wish I had that, and I don't, so, it is what it is.
You said it on our episode, though. You said it yourself. Those who want to see it don't, and those who don't want to see it do. And I definitely fall into that category of I wish I hadn't experienced all of that at this point in my life. I really wish I did not experience all of this stuff. And I would gladly give it to other people. Like you want it? I wish I could rub off on you. Give it to you. Like take it. Transfer it over. Like my family jokingly calls me the ghost magnet. So
There's a part of that phrase I want to touch, I'm not going to touch. John.
Yes, sir.
What about you, sir? What got you into the paranormal?
Well, like Ashley, I experienced a bunch of stuff when I was younger. I didn't really tell people about it, so I was never really hushed about it. Don't talk about these things kind of stuff. I remember one incident. I don't even know, 12, 13, we'll say. My brother is a couple years younger than me, and we had bunk beds, and I was sleeping on the top, and I saw this figure floating at the end of the bed, and the only thing that's there is like our closet door. And so I didn't know if it was my dad at first because I could hear like the TV in the living room and our door was cracked. I can see the light and I can hear the TV a little bit because at that point I think Married with Children was on. Now I'm dating myself here, but yeah,
that's
it was
called
on.
master
And
dating.
oh yeah, there we go again. But so and then all of a sudden I heard my dad laugh. So that freaked me out. I, like most kids would do, just flipped the covers up over my head and said, nope, we're done. I'm not going to deal with that. And then I asked my brother the next day if he had seen anything. And he's like, I was sleeping. I don't know what you're talking about. But I had looked before I flipped the covers, and I saw no legs. I saw no nothing. It was just the top half and a head floating at the end of the. Yeah, it was crazy.
Ooh, that sounds creepy as all hell, man. Creepy as all hell. But
Yes.
and I mean, well, obviously, both your experiences got you into the paranormal enough to start your own podcast, same as myself. So, which kind of interested. Were you two friends before you started the podcast, or did you meet each other through the paranormal world?
We were friends. So
Yes.
you said you were going to ask about the 3 haunted, and there's 2 of us. So we actually, there was 3 of us, and we're all very close. And John Thomas wanted to do something creative with each other. And they were like, we could do ghost hunting. And I was like, nope.
She shut that down real quick.
Like, Ghost Magnet is most definitely not going to do ghost hunting. They're just not really wanting to be terrified on a regular basis. So they said, okay, well then we could do a podcast. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. I was more open to a podcast talking about people's experiences, talking about the weird shit, because we do, like, especially people who have experienced things. You talk about it, you gravitate, you find the people that experience it themselves, and you talk about it. And the stuff we talk about is just like, we used to joke because we have a really bad sense of humor. I have a potty mouth. I don't know about these guys, but and so it was like, it would be funny if if someone just recorded us and we talked about it. It would be funny to see how other people receive it. Maybe someone listens, maybe nobody does, but let's see what we could do together as close friends, what we can create together. And yes, there were 3 of us. One of us got very, very busy with life and work, and so they unfortunately weren't able to continue on, even though they were like, wishing you the best. I just can't. And that is okay. And so John and I kept like, do we keep it going? And it's like, yeah, I love this. This is our baby. This, like, absolutely keep it going. And we figured that by having guests, they're our third. So we always have at least 1 guest, and then it's still 3 haunted, because there's at least 3 people talking about weird shit. Oh, I'm sorry.
Respect.
Did you swear on your podcast?
Oh, trust me. I can mark these episodes as explicit if I have to. I don't care.
Okay, awesome.
Because you know, if you're going to talk about the paranormal, you're going to talk about you're going to get some curse words and other words in there that shouldn't be in there. But we'll talk about Bride of the Woods a little bit later. But I already talked to Ashley about him for a second. But
That's true.
While John was having technical problems, but
yes.
But
happens a lot
Irene,
on my podcast.
Irene, thank you for watching. One of my sometimes loyal listeners who comes in when she can. I appreciate it.
Hi, Irene.
But
hello.
100, all the way from Japan, which I appreciate that.
I love it.
Heck yeah.
I don't know what time it is there right now, but I'm guessing it's daytime. I'm assuming, but I will say that yes. I mean, it does make sense that I almost assumed it was 3 to start off, and then like 1 dropped off. Like that's the way podcasts go a lot of times. Oh, that's apparently Irene has a dark spirit tell her to F off, and it is 11 a.m. there. It is 11 a.m. So I was right. It is daytime.
Where'd the dark spirit say it from? Was it from the podcast? Was it one of us, like one of our feeds? Now I have to know where did it come from. Irene, tell me more.
I think she's talking more about the past, but but yeah, I mean, 100%. It's just paranormal's a great world, and we all are involved in it. So, besides the initial experiences that got you into it, have you had any creepy experiences since? And since I'm a gentleman, ladies first, Ashley.
I'm no lady.
Ooh, promises.
Oh, from a stream in a cemetery. Oh, cemetery. Ooh. Cemeteries and we don't do well together at night. So, yeah, we had a paranormal investigator on an episode with us, actively recording, and I was already kind of on edge. We're talking about the things that kind of heebie-jeebie me out with, like, investigations and hauntings in homes. And They were our one of our original hosts from the beginning, our third. He actually was talking to her because they knew each other and said something about like, um, say hi to this spirit's name that I guess they used to communicate with for me. And she's like, oh yeah, that spirit was your spirit. Like, I guess his friend or whatever. And so episode wraps. I'm editing this episode and it's the middle of the night. I'm editing and I hear something. I'm picking up something on the track. And she didn't have any headwear on, so she was sitting far away from the computer. So where she was spatially in the room and the echo, you could tell where she was, right? And she was seated further away. So I'm like, what am I picking up? I'm hearing something, and I'm kind of OCD with tracks, or I've gotten a little more lenient with the editing, but I'm turning it up as high as possible because I'm like, it almost sounds like a wire hiss, and I'm like, which track is that coming from? So I keep replaying the same thing, crank it all the way up. I've got headphones on, like the sound, blocking noise, whatever, blocking, and headphones. And I hear so and so is your spirit. And all of a sudden I hear yes. And it sounds like whatever said yes is saying it directly into the microphone of her computer. Like they whispered yes. And I'm like, oh no. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, oh no. And she had been far away because she picks right back up as they're talking. And so she's still like, we would have seen her put her mouth to the microphone at her computer if it had been her, but it was coming from her track. Because when I muted her track, nothing. And when I put it back on, I hear so-and-so was your spirit or your ghost, and it just yes against the microphone. And I'm like, okay. And I messaged the boys and I'm like, oh, this is bullshit. And I sent it to them and they were like, that is awesome. I'm like, no, it is not awesome.
Yeah.
So
I'm not gonna lie, I would think it was awesome too.
No, I was freaked the fuck out.
Apparently Irene was too, because she doesn't do cemeteries anymore. And what's even more creepy, synchronization, my wife is blaring Cemetery Gates by Pantera right now.
I like Pantera.
There you go.
It's one of the few songs of theirs I like, but yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't. And then told them because they're like, "Are you gonna edit that out?" And I'm like, "Oh hell no, I'm leaving it in. We can ghost it up for the world. If people hear it, they hear it. If they don't, they don't." So, fun fact: we have a captured, I think, spirit recording in one of our episodes. I left it in.
Yep, season 1.
Season 1.
Ooh, interesting. So, any more experiences before I pass over to John, or?
I've got tons, but go, John, go. Volleying it to you.
Yeah, I actually joined a paranormal group, and the person that she's talking about was the leader of the group. And so we went to Waverly Hills in Kentucky, and so amazing.
Sanitarium?
Yes, such an amazing place to investigate. And we were on, I think, the 3rd floor, and we were standing in the middle of the hallway. So we had long hallway to the left, long hallway to the right, and pitch black. We have no phones, no nothing. We're just, trying to see. We can see the moon because the moon's out, and we're watching these spirits or these like shadow figures go from the left all the way to the right. So they're playing hide and seek with us. So we'll look left and then they'll like zip and go to the right. And one of the investigators that I was with, she liked the experiences, but she didn't like the experiences. And so I actually have an EVP recording where we're like talking and you can tell we're just like going back and forth, looking back and forth. And she's like, I can feel it. It's like really close to me. And I have an EVP that says right behind you. And I played that for her and she about crapped her pants. I got so many EVPs, and most of them honestly was just while we were setting up cameras and everything. just interacting with each other and kind of stuff. They're like, hey, we're here. Pay attention to us. This is what you're here for, So definitely some wild stuff.
This is what you're
I
here
mean,
for.
it's funny because as soon as you said Waverly Hills, I was like, why do I know that name? And then I'm like, oh, Waverly Hills Sanitarium. Yeah.
Yes.
I've definitely heard about people going ghost hunting there before, and it always seems like a very filled place to find things.
I recommend it. I'm trying to get Ashley to go, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
You don't bring a ghost magnet to a place like that. It's gonna
Sure you do.
See,
That's
Jonathan.
where you get more evidence.
See, there's ghost magnets. There's two kind of ghost magnets because I've met multiple, and they're basically either turned on or turned off by ghostly activity. It actually seems like the one turned off by ghostly activity.
You got it right.
And the ones that are turned on, yeah, bring them wherever the hell you want because they'll go and they'll be thrilled to be in that situation. The ones that are turned off, you don't bring anywhere because you're gonna scar them for life if you bring them a place like that.
Unless there's sexy demons there. There's sexy demons.
I don't think there are
and
there.
I'm not going.
I could lie and say there are.
I mean, the only sexy demon I've ever heard of is myself. But I mean, besides that, I never heard any. But well, okay, I'll take that back. Maybe Marilyn Manson back in the 90s, but maybe.
Ashley's face.
Well, apparently she's not a Manson fan. But many women in the 90s thought he was a sexy demon. But nowadays, he looks like your aunt. But other than that,
people have different definitions of what they find sexy. That's neither here nor there. Actually, you know what's interesting? So near me, I'm actually in the Bay Area. There's actually the Winchester Mystery House, and they are coming up. They're going to be doing a medium event. Like it's supposed to be like a full channeling medium event being held there for like 25 people. I considered it, but then they're like, you must sign a release to be on camera and do all this stuff. And nope, I'm good. Because I'd be the one that's probably like crying on camera, like Blair Witch Child, just right there. I think it's right behind me. I don't want to look. Like, nope, I'm good.
All over. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, ooh, the Winchester Mystery House.
It's on my bucket list.
It's on my bucket list too. It's because you can get lost in for days and never get found again, from what I hear. But I mean,
the Winchester Mystery of it locked off. You could do tours, and you could buy like extended tours where they take you to other places they don't usually take people. But most of it, they've just like completely blocked off.
Because those are the stairs that go to nowhere, where there's just a hole that all the bodies are buried in. Come on, now.
The bodies. Let the bodies hit the floor.
Oh, I forget her name. I want to say it was Jane or Sarah Winchester, but she was a very, very strange woman, and she had a lot of weird fetishes and ways. That I mean,
don't we
it
all?
Was just, well, very few would match with her. Very few. But I mean, there's rumors that house is just basically a murder house, that she would have people come in that came by and they never left again. But because she has, the whole idea of American Horror Story Hotel was kind of based in her house for a while, and another hotel out in California. But it's creepy. I love her because it's Winchester. They gave the idea of supernatural for the name, so I'm all for that. But because I'm a huge Dean and Sam head, but
can we talk about like the fact that people are more open to talk about paranormal now? Like back when I was younger, you don't talk about ghosts because you're just automatically marked as like a weirdo. And the whole paranormal investigation thing, you're marked as like a weirdo. You're an outcast. And now it's like super becoming trendy and mainstream, and people are more comfortable talking about it. Like I see my Facebook blowing up And if, like, I
Yep.
read about, oh my gosh, I think my house is haunted. My kids are talking about seeing this and experiencing that. And I go to look because I scroll back, like a quick scroll, and then I see like ghosts, and I scroll back, up, and it's like, whoa, what group is that in? Because I'm part of so many different groups. It's like, oh, I wonder if it was one of the, podcast groups or the paranormal groups. No, it's like in a mommy club group. So
Yep.
like these people are becoming more and more open and willing to be open about it. And I don't know if it's like, man, you're that desperate because you're that scared, in which case, can I come over and talk to you and your kid? Would that be like, I don't know, is that exploitation? But I'm really fascinated and curious. And and then I also feel badly for the kiddos because I'm like, oh, you must be scared. But it's crazy. And then these people are turning to Facebook and like, what do I do? I've never experienced this. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I'm seeing that more and more and more pop up on my feed. And maybe it's always been there. Maybe Facebook is just putting it in
No,
the algorithm.
it
Or
hasn't.
maybe it's just wow.
It hasn't. I've talked about this before on my show, but I'll straight up say, when I was a kid, even though I never experienced anything paranormal was not talked about. If you try to bring Bigfoot up in like a public conversation around your parents, you're gonna get slapped in the back of the head in the '90s and be like, "Don't talk about that stupid shit." But nowadays, I mean, you could thank Monster Quest to begin with, and Ancient Aliens, and now the thousands of Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and all those crap shows that are on TV, along with everything else. My Deadly Possession, my Neighbor from Hell, and like all these freaking like random reality shows now that have to do paranormal. They helped bridge the gap between people liking paranormal stuff and being willing to admit it in public versus when we were children, which I'm guessing we're all around the same age, 30s, whatever. I'm not gonna try and make people tell their age on my show, but but yeah, I mean, in the '90s and the 2000s, in the early 2000s, you didn't talk about paranormal in public, and unless you had like that goth group of friends that was like all into it, which I never had that, so I don't know if anybody else did.
I was considered the pink goth. So like I had a lot of goth friends, but I wasn't gothy. So that's odd. I wasn't very gothy, but my friends, some of them were.
Random question. I don't even want to acknowledge it really, but I mean, it's kind of funny, so that's one reason I did. And yeah, dude, calm yourself, or you're getting blocked. Just saying, but 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so have either of you ever had experiences with UFOs or aliens? I'll ask that straight out. You seem like you're both dying to go first.
No, I watch her face because I like watching her face when we talk about different things because it's just funny. I like watching Ashley.
I don't. That's creepy.
I know. I'm like, that's creepy.
I don't know. I've been. I used to do a drive back and forth between Utah and Colorado back when I lived in Colorado, but I worked a lot in the like film stuff in Utah. So I drive back and forth a lot, and it would be nighttime. And I remember there was one time, it was like 1 a.m, where I saw something. I don't know what it was, but it came fast, and it came like I was driving over a hill, and what I should have seen over, like, you see it crash, it goes fast. You're like, oh, there should be something right there when I come over the hill, and I'm terrified because I don't know what I'm about to encounter or see. And I get over the hill of this road, there's nothing there. But it was so bright. And like at first I thought it was a meteor about to like, crash into the road. And the trajectory of where it should have hit, there was nothing there. And I have no idea what it was. But
interesting.
It was big, and it didn't look like it was burning out like you would see with meteors, right? And I saw it just coming down over this hill, and I was terrified I'm going to come up and the road's going to be destroyed or something. And when I got over the hill, and I wasn't the only one, there were a few other cars on the road, and they kind of slowed down, like, what the hell are we about to see? We get up over on the hill, and there's like nothing there. So I don't know what it was, but it was like 1 a.m. and it was in Wyoming. And then you never, like, I feel like weird shit always happens when I'm driving through Wyoming. I don't know what it is about Wyoming.
Oh, Wyoming is a big open state, and a lot of weird stuff happens there. Legal, paranormal and non-paranormal. But I've watched Big Sky. But I will. Quick question though: do either of you know James Donnelly?
No.
No.
Name sounds familiar, but I don't.
All right, just because I just had to block him because he's asking really obscene
Ah,
questions and it
yeah.
make no sense to the podcast. So I just want to make sure it wasn't a friend of yours. Probably block
Oh
him.
no, nah,
No,
no,
I
Okay.
don't think our friends tend to be trolls. So,
no.
All right. Oh yeah, you saw the first question. The second question I deleted as soon as it came up, but
gotcha.
because I protect my guests and myself from harassers like that who just want to be
I
dicks on
appreciate
podcasts.
you.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know anybody who's ever been molested by a ghost, and I'm good with that answer right there. But, but, what about you, John? Any UFO alien experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple of weird things that I can't explain. Again, probably 15, 16, maybe 17 years old, waiting for the bus to hang out with friends, and just happened to look up in the sky and see these like lights. It was triangle shaped, so there's three lights, and they were hovering for a little bit and then zipped on by super fast. Did not know what that was. There was another time where I was hanging out at a friend's house, and during the summer, we're outside jumping around on his trampoline, and I see this weird, like red cloud. It wasn't, there was no other clouds in the sky, and the only best way I can describe it was a red cloud, but it was huge, and it appeared out of nowhere. Like he didn't see it at first, I didn't see it at first because we were jumping from his garage that was in the backyard, or was a shed, I guess, whatever it was. But we were jumping from the roof of that onto the trampoline and back and forth. So we would have seen something jumping in, while we were looking. But it appeared out of nowhere, and I was like, "Holy crap! What is that? Where did that come from?" And it looks, and we stopped, and we're just staring at it for like 5 minutes, and it's just hovering, not moving, nothing. And then in the blink of an eye, it was gone. There was nothing else around. I have no idea what that was, but it was the trippiest thing that I have ever seen.
Well, that's interesting as hell. Like a red cloud, like I don't know what that could be. Even like, I
Right?
mean, that's creepy. But I guess Irene says that Japan's the opposite of the United States now, and they basically shun you if you talk about paranormal things. So, I mean,
Huh.
yeah, yes, Japan has had I would say a stereotype for years about like certain ghosts, I think they're called, and demons, the Oni, like have been a huge Japanese thing for years now. So I can almost understand why Japan would do that because it's been ruling like the anime world for a long time. Like that Japan's haunted everywhere and there's ghosts everywhere, but and movies as well. But I mean, just I mean, you never should shun the paranormal. That's just not good. Not good. But not good at all. But well, unless you guys have any more experiences that are entirely creepy that you want to talk about, I always like to make sure there's nothing else my guests want to add before I jump to the next section. But
Are there any paranormal creepies you want to talk about, John?
I don't know. So we mentioned cemeteries beforehand. And I know, Ashley, you've experienced stuff in the cemetery that I've experienced stuff in. And I'll tell my story just because. But there's this cemetery here in Colorado. It's like the third largest cemetery here. And a few years ago, I had a friend that really wanted to go in there at night and check it out. And I'm like, well, you can't, they have gates, cemetery, they lock it,
Oh my God, are you talking
whatever.
about the Fairmont?
I sure am.
Oh.
And so it's again summer, and I'm like, all right, whatever. She decides to talk about this. It's like starting to get dark. So I figure by the time we get there, it's gonna be dark and we're not gonna be able to get in. And I'm gonna, haha, whatever. We can't get in. Sorry. So we drive up there, and again, I'm right. It's dark, but we drive up to the gates, and there's nobody at the gatehouse. The goddamn things opened up and let us freaking in. And she's like, something wants us here. I said, shut up. Like, shut up. No, I don't want to do this right now. Like, shut up.
Something wants us here.
So we drive all the way to the back of the cemetery, and I think that's where the mausoleum is. This is big old building, huge building, can't miss it. We park there. So we start walking around the edges of the cemetery, and you can hear like the neighborhood because there's houses and stuff across the street. And you can hear the dogs and you can hear the cars driving down the street. And then all of a sudden we get to one spot, like kind of in the middle, but not really. And we don't know where we're at. Can't hear the neighbor, can't hear the dogs, can't hear anything. But then we hear footsteps. And of course we have our flashlights, our phones, whatever. So we shine the light. Behind us, there's nothing. Think nothing of it. We're like, oh crap, we're kind of lost in the middle of a cemetery at night. I'm like, is this what you wanted? She's like, kind of. I'm like, ugh,
what you wanted?
Whatever. So we continue on, and more footsteps. But all of a sudden, they're not behind us anymore. They're surrounding us. Not only are there footsteps, but there's this weird growling noise that doesn't sound like a dog or a wolf or anything else. I don't know what the heck it is, but it like went from behind us to surrounding us. Still lost. So we start running. Finally figure out where we are. Everything stops, just dead stop. You can hear the normal noise of the cars. You can hear everything else. We found a big building that we couldn't see because I have no idea why. And get to the car, try to drive out. Got lost again. There's one road in and basically one road out from where we came in, and we couldn't get out. But then all of a sudden we, I don't know, got lucky and we're able to find the gates and hightailed it out of there.
Sounds like a thin veil between dimensions, almost kind of like.
Yeah, it was some creepy stuff.
It sounds like you kind of crossed over for a second there, and I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I can think about for that is that's a crossover between dimensions or whatnot.
Right. And we went back during the day, but we didn't feel anything weird or anything else either. So it was weird.
Well, during the day you're less likely too, because these things tend to come out. They only come out at night, as Lordy says. But
why? Why do you suppose that is?
Well, because I think it's when the veil is thinnest. I think during the day,
certain times, yeah.
I think during the day, you only could find things that are on Earth, and I don't think there's really anything hanging out in most cemeteries anyway. During the day, I think it's at night when the veil's thin. They go to where they're buried to see who left them things and whatnot.
I was gonna say, usually during the day it's kind of dead, but boom.
Because I wonder why. I mean, if we think about day and night, right? Like I've been thinking about that. Why things happen more at nighttime? Because it's always day somewhere on the Earth. It's not like the whole Earth is dark. Like there's something scientifically, spatially wise, where there's somewhere daytime on the Earth. And so, what is it about the absence of the sun on a specific area of the Earth that like thins the veil? I've been trying to figure that out. What it is about nighttime.
Well, for a while, if you asked me a couple weeks ago, I wouldn't have an answer to this. But I recently had a astrologer on my podcast, on this podcast, and he actually did a full astrological reading for me for the first time I ever had one of those out of my life. And let's just say everything lined up perfectly to who I am. So I was like, holy crap. But because it described me to a T, and I'm like, you could tell that by when I was born and what time of day it was? Like, holy shit. But, I mean, it's just, I think the planets and the alignment of the sun and the moon have a lot more to do with our lives than we ever truly give them credit for. I mean, yeah, it's our human nature. We go to sleep when it's dark out. We wake up when it's light out. Like, for most people, that's human nature. Yeah, there are night owls out there and insomniacs who don't do that, and I don't want to offend them by saying I don't want to offend them by I've never been either, so I can't say, but I don't want to offend them by saying it's not normal. But for most people, it's normal to go sleep when it's light dark out and wake up when it's light out. And I mean, it's been that way forever. Back to when we were farmers with no electricity and we didn't have a way to keep light at night besides like a candle or two. So I think just it always has something to do with that. I mean, even in the original lore of like mythological like Greece, Rome, Japan, China, Aztecs, all that stuff, the boogeyman comes out at night. All the evil creatures come out at night. That's the way it is in every lore. Vampires, werewolves, which I hate the name of, and everything else. 100% they come out at night. So nighttime has always been associated with evil, and I don't think it's just for storytelling. I think it just kind of has a history of it. Which
I kind of wonder, this is kind of my philosophy, because I'm going to get a little weird now that I'm kind of listening to you and processing it a little bit. It's time to get weird, John. I wonder.
I like weird. Go ahead.
I wonder if it's not so much spatially or astrologically or any of that. I wonder if, because we've talked about this in dream episodes, we've talked about this in people's like levels of where they shift. And I often wonder if it happens more at night because our strengths are less strong at night. We're more vulnerable at night. And we are going to a different space within our brain and our energy sensitivities that maybe cause us to vibrate in a different way, so to speak. So then we receive it more. So maybe it's always there. Maybe the ghosts and the demons and the veil is thin always. But maybe, just maybe, when it's nighttime, we feel more vulnerable. We feel more like our survival instincts kick in more. And we're vibrating in a way of fear that even when we don't realize it, right? Because we can't see, we're disarmed. And so maybe other senses, because we can't see, suddenly come in stronger. Kind of like with the absence of one sense we rely on, our eyes, other senses become more sensitive and more on alert. And so we receive those things that are always there a little bit more clear. I don't know. I'm weird.
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, Daredevil would agree with you, I'm sure, but I will 100% say that. I mean, it makes sense to some degree, but like, if an underworld being like a demon per se, even though I hate that name, wants to fuck with you, they're not gonna give a shit what time of day it is. They're gonna fuck with you because underworld beings don't care. They are gonna mess with you whenever they can. I mean, nighttime has always been human fear. I mean, it was back when we were cavemen, and you didn't leave the cave at night because that's where the natural wild animals came out that were predators. Was at night. I mean, the saber-toothed tiger came out at night more than during the day to hunt. So, I mean, it's just our natural fear since the beginning of time. I mean, yes, nowadays it's less so because we have flashlights, we have lanterns, we have electricity. We can illuminate the night and not be scared of it anymore because we can see what's in front of us instead of just being blind or even being semi-visible, like if your eyes get used to it. But I mean, I still don't like going. I live in the woods basically. I don't like going out in my backyard at night at all, and I do not like going out in my front yard at night that much either because I've seen eyes from the sides of the woods, and I'm good. I ain't trying to get me and my dog eaten by a coyote.
Yeah, predators do like come out more, and because we're more vulnerable. But the predators are always there, right? They don't suddenly exist because it's nighttime. They just kind of crowd in more. And we had a medium on our podcast last season who told us, actually more than one of them told us that, what you vibrate out, law of attraction, right? You're bringing back in. So if more people feel vulnerable and afraid at night, possibly they're vibrating in some of these experiences. They're kind of attracting in these experiences. I don't know.
I mean, well, they say predators can smell fear. I don't know how much I believe that 100%, but I mean, smell blood's one thing, smell fear is a whole nother. But I mean, because that's just the way nocturnal creatures do, is they come out at night. I mean, they're not all predators either. I mean, skunks are more active at night than day, and they're not predators to us, really. I mean, they're just predators to bugs. But so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if something wants to attack you in a supernatural sense, it's always going to attack you. Dog men have been seen during the day, and they going after humans, like bluffing them and charging at them. Bigfoot have been seen during the day, throwing things at humans. Like I had some of my podcasts a couple episodes ago that got a rock. He got a rock thrown at him in the middle of the day by a Bigfoot. Like they were out Bigfoot hunting, and they got a rock thrown at him by something that only been a Bigfoot because it was a huge rock, but like it wasn't like no pebble. It was a pretty damn big rock based on what he says, like boulder size almost. So, I mean, anything supernatural that wants to get you, it's gonna come at you no matter when it wants to get you. You're lucky if it doesn't. That's the bottom line. You're lucky if it doesn't. But so I don't know. The difference between night and day is just, yeah, human spirits play a lot into it. You're gonna think you hear and see things that are not there at night because we all do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I looked in the corner of my room when I was a kid and what's that? Is that a ghost? Is that a ghost? Turning the light. No, it's just some of my clothes sitting on a chair. But I mean, we've all had that experience when we were kids at some point, or when we're adults even. I mean, I had a rocking chair in my bedroom in my last place I lived before this, and there was always like I would look at the rocking chair and I would think someone was sitting there, or I'd look at the. I am the biggest sucker for when I lived by myself. When I would be in my own room at night by myself, like before I met my wife and I moved in together. I would always have to sleep with the door shut because I always thought if the door was open, I'd look out and see something there. Like it's just a fear ingrained in my head since I was a kid. And as soon as I got old enough, my door was always shut when I went to sleep. From the time I was in college on, my door was always shut before I went to sleep because it's just the way I am. And now that I got kids that live with me and stuff, I can't do that because if one of them wakes up in the night crying or something, I need to be able to run. Or if one of them wants to run in my room, I don't want them running into a door. I mean, as funny as that may be to me, it's going to hurt them. So, I mean, and plus
Yeah,
I
I think
wouldn't wake
it's
up
more
anyway.
alarming when you they're right next to you. It's hard to like logic that shit away. Like if something is literally standing right next to you, and it's dark, but you can clearly see they're blocking like things behind them, and they're very clearly like a shadow, but a dark shadow right next to you. I think that those are harder. Like you can explain the lights and the shadows moving because outside light sources can affect inside shadows, and so that definitely makes sense. And like our eyes are constantly trying to adjust to the contrast when it's night, but like there are certain things that it's just like, oh no, that's definitely something right there, but I don't want to know, I don't want to see it, I'm good.
I mean, I'll tell you the most simple story of this. When when I was in my old house before this, I saw, like I told in your show about seeing it in 2017. That got me into Stephen King a lot, and I started reading Stephen King's books from the beginning. And I was reading Cycle of the Werewolf at the time, which later became the movie Silver Bullet. And I was reading Cycle of the Werewolf outside in the back of the condo we lived in, my mom and me. And basically, I'm sitting out there smoking my cigars, like reading it. And I didn't know that the house behind the condos had a husky. But lo and behold, that night, I see a wolf-looking freaking dog come out of the woods while I'm sitting there reading Cycle of the Werewolf. Like, not only did I literally almost shit my pants, like I literally jumped up and ran to the door before this most friendly dog ever came over and let me pet it.
This
And
most
like,
friendly dog ever. Or it was a werewolf, but werewolves are misunderstood.
no, it was the neighbor behind me's husky, Bella.
I love the most friendly dog.
She is, and to this day, when I go to visit my mom, to this day, if she comes up, because she's on a GPS collar, so he lets her roam. So if she comes up through the woods, like I always like pet her, and like she gives me hugs, and like she loves me because I used to feed her bologna and treats like crazy. But we still, my mom still feeds her treats like crazy, but She's the most friendly dog ever. I've only heard her growl like 3 times since I've known her in the last 5 years. So, I mean, she's a friendly dog, but imagine reading a book about a freaking werewolf and having a husky come out of nowhere in the middle of the night. Like, that's nightmare fuel. That's nightmare fuel because it's like, holy shit.
Your
But,
heart would probably stopped for like a moment.
oh, definitely. Welcome,
Hello,
A View Beyond.
Beyond.
I haven't seen you here before, but welcome to Parapost. Glad to have you.
Hello.
And I love a good paranormal magazine. So yeah. So I think at this point in the show, we can jump to Creature Feature, my
Creature
favorite segment.
Let's do it.
And it's not just a double creature. It's not just a double creature feature like back in the 50s. It's a quadruple or other math words I can't say past that point. Creature feature. Hexagonal. Creature feature, whatever you want to call it.
Hexagonal. That's I hear hexagonal and I can think of as Professor McGonagall.
I know. I was going to say Wingardium Leviosa. Let's go.
Let's get it.
No, John. It's Wingardium Leviosa. But no. Let's see. Who didn't we talk about? Well, actually, okay. I promise I'll bring up 2 different creatures in this show because I always do because they're my 2 favorite cryptids.
Okay.
So let's jump to Dogman because I love me some Dogman, and I will let you guys start because all my listeners know what I believe, and we'll get to that in a second, I'm sure. But I want to hear what you guys believe about Dogman because I know as podcasters you've had to have heard them, heard stories of them.
That's Midwest, right? Midwest cryptid.
That's all over the freaking world. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, but like,
yes, it's big. It's big in Wisconsin, big in Kentucky.
Yeah, Michigan too, I think.
Yeah.
Michigan too, but Wisconsin and Wisconsin and Kentucky have the 2 most famous ones. But yeah, go on. I'm interested to hear your theory on if they exist and how they exist.
You know, it's hard because that's what she said. It's hard because
I wasn't gonna go there, but okay.
We always do.
I am like the dirty joke person. So for me, it's like because you have werewolves, but dogmen are almost like more like a hybrid, right? Like it's a human.
Werewolves don't fucking exist. Werewolves do not exist.
But you know what I mean? Like werewolves are full canine, and dogmen are supposed to be like a hybrid between like the torso of a man and dog canine features. So at least from what I understood. So for me, that's not to be confused with a werewolf because a werewolf, if we're talking just creature origin, it's like it's a man that fully transforms into like this wolf furry creature, whereas like with a dogman it's more of like a hybrid, right? And so but I found it interesting because like with the dogman, you know, they're described like, you know, having these like blue or amber colored eyes, and it's like how close do you have to get to something to be able to see their eye color? So these eyewitnesses have to be like pretty freaking close if you're able to see eye color.
Not true.
Unless you're photographing.
On a dark night in the trail I used to live in New York, I could see a bear's eyes shining blue from about a mile away. Animals' eyes have shine that human eyes don't, and you could see them from a long way away.
Okay.
I'll put that out there, but
then, like, at least from what I know, like, what was it, the 1800s, late 1800s, they reported like the first sighting of the dogman in Michigan dogman. And, like, so
yeah, I mean, in Michigan, yes, it was like the late 1800s was the first written report of a dogman sighting.
1887.
Yeah. First written report. I'll exemplify the word written. But
yeah.
So I mean,
that people that were part wolf. So
yes,
I have a question for that. Beyond Paranormal, or I'm sorry, View Beyond. Since they know some of that lore, is it people that are part wolf? Like, is it like werewolf transformation where they are people that kind of partially transform part wolf, or are they always like some kind of hybrid creature that's like a person and part wolf that kind of lives among
From
us?
before they answer, from my understanding, and from what I mean, see, this is where it gets tough because you're kind of going into Shimwalker territory.
Oh, the
Like,
skinwalkers, yeah.
Yeah.
if you say their name, they'll come for you. But
We did a
Well,
whole
I've said
episode.
it a
We're good.
lot, so if they're
Yeah.
coming for me, then
we
but
did a
yes,
whole
I mean,
episode.
you get close to that territory because they are humans who can change into any animal. Though dogmen, I mean, there's a famous song from the 50s or 60s where it's me and the boys were playing with a dog in the woods, and it went in one end of a log and came out the other standing like a man. So, I mean, from what I've always understood about dogmen, and yes, werewolves come from the werewolf lore comes from dogmen existing since the beginning of time, in my opinion. It has to. It freaking has to, because there's no such thing as freaking werewolves. I will say that right here now. Werewolves do not exist in that lore of silver bullets and moonlight and all that, like full moon. They don't exist in that way. If dogmen exist, they're either, in my mind, ultra terrestrial creatures that come from other dimensions and just are on our plane once in a while. But I mean, it like Bigfoot, Native Americans have reported these stories since before we wrote things down. Before they wrote things down, they told them around the fires. They told this story many times, and the Michigan Dogman is famous from further back than a lot of other things. But when I come to Dogman, I think of the Beast of Bray Road in Wisconsin, and I think of the Rougarou in the whole South, basically, in New Orleans especially. But I also think of the Beast of the Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky.
yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard when you have and this is with any cryptid or anything that is easily written off as like a mythological creature of some sort, is that it gets muddled with people's like proof. And
Oh, I
so
mean, it's
with like the Dogman, you have that picture in the 60s, right? And you look at the picture and it's just like, come on. Like it looks
I haven't
like
seen this. I haven't seen this picture you're talking about. Oh, you mean the blurry one of the Beast of Bray Road?
let me see if I can find it. But it's like it looks like a creature from a horror movie in like the 60s and 70s. So to me, it feels like
while you're looking that up, A View Beyond did respond to your question.
Oh, they did.
Yes.
Not necessarily werewolf, more like an affinity with them. Oh, that's neat.
So, I mean, I believe that werewolves never existed. I believe that they were lore from dogmen that actually existed became werewolves. I mean, you have the beast of, and I'm going to destroy this because I always do, but the beast of Godevon or Jodevon in France back in like the 1300s, where it was supposed to be like a wolf type man creature and supposedly they burned somebody in the stake to say he changed to a wolf every night. But I mean, that might have just been a lunatic who just said that to get attention. I don't know. But I wasn't alive back then, so I couldn't tell you. But I mean, dogmen have been around, in my opinion, since Bigfoot, since Homo sapien. They've all been around. All three have been around since the beginning of time, and they evolved, and they just grew and grew. And like Bigfoot, they said, "These creatures kill us. Let's go this way. We'll hang out with these big furry guys. They look like they're friendly. Let's go." And I mean, I don't know, but Dogmen, the Beast of the Land Between the Lakes is such a horrific, gory story about a Dogman attack that it could never be a human attack. Like it couldn't have been a serial killer. It couldn't have been some deranged person. No killer that's human is throwing a little girl up into a tree just for shits and giggles. I mean, come on. They're going to hide the body. They're not going to throw it up in a tree because, people can look up. They're not going to look. People can't see through the ground, but people can look up. So, to me, that's just, I don't know. To me, that's just the way it goes. I mean, I believe dogmen exist so strongly. And the last thing I'll say is there's a website called North American Dogmen Project.com or .org. I forget which. If you Google it, you'll find it. They have a map of dogmen sightings, reportings, and even if 80% of those sightings are false or lies, the amount of red dots on that map makes me want to stay inside at night.
Yeah,
and they are everywhere. In the United States, they're everywhere, and in Europe and Asia, they're reported as well.
Wouldn't we know though? Like, that's where I struggle. But like, if these, or I guess if they were to be feared, wouldn't there be more attacks and more documented things that are similar in nature in terms of like the type of markings, where the bodies are found, how they're found, and if they're a creature that is like out preying on humans?
Well, see, no one says they prey on humans. No one said that. They could easily eat rabbits and other small mammals to get their food. I mean, and one, the government, two, the government, three, the government. All three, everything you brought up, the government could easily cover up.
What was number 4? Is it the government?
No, number four is Men in Black, but
which is the government?
Oh, you don't know that.
Somebody's government.
The Men in Black could easily be, and are thought to be for many long times, extraterrestrials.
Intergalactic enforcers.
Basically, they're covering up their own kinds. I mean, and all right, I promised you this one theory. I promised you 2 theories in my show, but I'll give you this one theory for now. I had this theory, and I don't know where I originally heard this or where I took it from, or if I made it up on my freaking clear blue head. I don't freaking know, but I heard it somewhere or made it up. But I've had this theory for years that Earth is a prison planet for alien species that are dangerous to the rest of the alien species, and that the other rest of the alien species are just racist against, basically. And I believe that there is a alien Congress, an alien UN, a dupe, Galactic Republic, whatever you want to call it, any sci-fi term you could think of for them. Basically, it's a gathering of mass different alien species. And I believe that any species they don't like or any aliens that get in trouble are sent to Earth, because Earth is a prison planet. We're a backwoods, nobody planet, because we're so not evolved yet fully. And I believe that that's why we have Bigfoot. I believe that's why we have dogmen to some degree, and I believe that's why we have chupacabras and every other cryptid you could think of, like sea monsters. Like, what if they're all different alien species and we're a prison planet? And
or what
that's
if
why
we're just one form of them? Maybe a long time ago, this was the prison planet, and humans, as we know it, were one of the ones that got booted over, and we just happened to propagate a little faster than the other ones, like bunnies.
You didn't finish that. You didn't let me finish. That's one why there's so many UFOs and so many aliens seen on Earth, is because they're wardens. They're making sure, and that's 2 why you don't find any Bigfoot bodies or any cryptid bodies really, because you don't think the wardens are going to cover up with themselves. Come on now. And 3, humans were either one of these races that got put on Earth, or 3B, we were slaves
3B.
sent here to build. We were slaves sent here to build things for the aliens, such as the pyramids or the Aztec Mayan temples, Machu Picchu. Like, take your pick.
For what purpose?
We were sent. Well, that's not meant to be known by us yet. That's meant to be known by the overlords. I mean, but if you ask me, Stonehenge from the sky looks like a landing pod.
And then there's that Stonehenge that just got revealed in Spain, right?
What was that?
There's a Stonehenge, I believe, in Spain that like it looks like another Stonehenge. That the water's
They're all
levels
over the world.
so low that they're like, boom, look, another Stonehenge.
They're all over the world. There's Stonehenges all over the world. We just haven't found them all yet. And they could easily be UFO landing pads or ship landing pads, whatever you want to call them. But so, I mean, that's the one theory I wanted to tell you on my show because it sounds less crazy on my own show if I say it. But because I mean, that's been one of my theories for years that Earth is an alien prison planet. Because it's like they said on South Park. We put all these species on Earth to watch them fight and go at it, just as so we can have a reality show. So,
what does it matter if we know though? Because if like Bigfoots and chupacabras and all the different cryptids are being deposited here because they misbehaved for whatever reason,
because
why does it matter if we know?
Because it's like if you tell a kid something that you don't want them to know. If you say like, "Oh, we had like do this so we can take a picture or take a video," they're gonna stop doing it. Like you don't let. It's like it'd be like if at the zoo, and the animals are smart enough for us to say, "Oh yeah, you're our captives." Yeah, think if they're smart enough for that, that they would last there that much longer. No, they'd be planning to break out pretty damn soon.
But we can't break out anywhere. Realistically, the masses cannot break out anywhere. We are not equipped for that. Now, whether there's some hidden government agency that can shuttle off the elite or whatever you believe in, like the masses themselves, you, John, like we cannot just be like, well, I'm leaving this dude now that I know you guys exist and you're making my planet an alien planet. Like, because think about it. If there's
we're cannon fodder. Why would they care about us?
Exactly. Why would they care about us enough to hide it? Like,
why would they care? Why would they care about us? Why would they care about us enough to tell us?
They don't have to tell us. My point is why go through all the trouble of hiding it and burying the secrets and doing things so discreetly if we're just the fodder, if we're just the dumb masses? Why go through all of that?
Well, think about it. The Wardens didn't show up in recorded history, at least, until we started playing with nuclear bombs.
But we still can't. Nuclear bombs can only do destructive things here. We can't launch it out of our space to some unknown planet when we barely started taking pictures of other planets.
Excuse me. If you think there's not at least one country with bombs up on a satellite, you are freaking out of your mind.
It still can only go so far.
Doesn't need to go that far.
What it takes, like physics-wise, to be able to, when it takes so long to reach other planets, like just to photograph the planets, it takes so long. And we're going to launch, like, it's going to take like 50 years. They're going to intercept it, especially if their technology goes faster and they can just bloop in and out dimensionally or the long way. Like, we can barely exist in other atmospheres.
Who said we're attacking planets?
What are
if they let us know where they're here and that what I just said is true, that means their ships are somewhere in space and near our planet. And what do you think we're going to be shooting at next?
But if we haven't found them now, we're going to suddenly be able to find them?
Right there. A View Beyond just kind of gave you a little hint at it.
I still hold on to. We've got nothing but theories and grainy photos and grainy videos access to the masses. I'm talking about masses. So I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I guess what I'm saying is, like you said, we're in our infancy when it comes to our evolution and our progression. So if there's something out there that's able to be capable of doing what they do on Earth, I even with nuclear bombs, it's like handing a kid like a loaded weapon. Like you said, we're like little kids. They're trying to keep the secret from you. Hand a kid a loaded weapon. They might hit somebody, but then that kid's going to be taken out. Like our capability, if we are in that line of logic of we're toddlers in our infancy, how are we a threat? Even if we've got the bombs, even if we've got
We're
our
not.
technology is so far behind. So to
Well,
waste that energy hiding from us, it just, I don't know. I start to cycle through that.
Well, one, I'm gonna say we're not a threat, and that's why they don't tell us anything, because we're nothing to them. Why would they tell us anything? That's like when you have a 3-year-old run by you when you're arguing with your wife, and they want to know what's going on. You don't tell them what's going on. You just say, "Oh, nothing, sweetie. Go play."
But you also don't go out of your way and like to be completely hidden
Oh,
from them.
yes, you do. Yes, you do. I mean, sometimes. If you have you don't have kids yet, apparently, because you will learn that you will definitely go out of your way to hide from them sometimes, like 100%. Like
He likes to be insulting when he's challenged, doesn't he? I'm starting to discover this.
No, I'm not.
I
No,
actually
no,
have 3 children, thank you, but I also know that I'm not going to waste my money, resources, and time and energy trying to hide from them if I think they're truly not the brightest little crayons in the box. Yeah, I may kind of like if they point blank ask me what's up, I'm like, nothing, don't worry about it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to elaborately make sure they are like veiled over in this ignorance. I guess that's my point, especially if they're not a threat in some way. That's just me, though.
Well, one, not being insulting, because you definitely don't look like you have 3 kids, so I'm going for that.
Well, thank
Complimenting. But 2, if my 5-year-old is throwing a fit, you best believe if she comes looking for me in the front porch, like I'm smoking a cigarette, I'm ducking the hell down so she doesn't see me. But go to my wife. Like, stay away from me. Like, it's too early in the morning for this. Go see your mom. But and 3, they don't hide from us completely. That's why we do have encounters and reports of seeing them, because they don't hide from us completely. It just we're not enough people are actively looking for them to find them. That's the difference. We don't care. Most humans don't care enough because they have other worries than to go looking for cryptids.
Yeah.
Even hunters, if they hear them coming, we don't want to be bothered today. We're just gonna run that way while the hunters are coming. Let's go. And you see a bunch of dogmen running through the woods, but you don't see them.
Packs?
Oh well, dogs are pack creatures. Why wouldn't dogmen be? I mean, John, anything you want to say about this topic? Because you've been quiet as a mouse for the last like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't really know much about the dogmen, so I'm just kind of listening to y'all.
He just laughs.
I just laugh.
All right.
I will say, I do believe that there are creatures out there that we haven't encountered enough to be able to prove they exist, but I do firmly believe there are creatures out there we call cryptids that do exist, that just haven't been put in our scientific canon of species lists, and so therefore they are considered mythological. I think things out there do exist. I do think that there are things out there we don't know, but when we start to get into this idea of like a conspiracy to keep it away from us, that's where I start to like try to like psychology it. And you can't psychology things that aren't human, right? I can't dive into the brain of an alien. I can't dive into the brain of a dogman or a Bigfoot, because that's assuming that they're like us. And that for me, I can't assume that. So I can only go from my existence and try and piece it together, but ultimately I don't know. I'm not an alien, and I'm not a dogman or a Bigfoot, so I don't know why they do what they do. But I'm also not an arrogant human and think that anything is hiding from us out of fear, or anything is hiding from us because they worry what we're going to do with them. I think, if anything, we're the lowest thing on the totem pole.
Well, I mean, we also we carry things that they don't, such as guns.
That we know of, though.
I never heard any story about Bigfoot coming out of the woods with a fucking AK-47 in its arm. But just saying. And I mean, I don't think they hide from us out of fear. I think it's out of wanting to survive, one, because they see what humans do to the land and they don't want anything to do with it. Or 2, just because they don't want anything to do with us. They've been seeing us since the beginning of time. They don't want anything to do with us because they understand we are low creatures who don't understand shit yet, and they want nothing to do with us. Nothing. I mean, I've heard some stories like on Derek Hayes' Monsters Among Us podcast where a man fell out of his tree stand from 20 feet in the air, and he swears, and I've heard this story multiple times by the man on a phone call on that show, and he sounds like he is 100% telling the truth because why would you lie about this? And he swears he was picked up by a female Bigfoot and forced to drink her breast milk while hearing a male Bigfoot in the background making growling noises at her to be like, come on, leave this fool. We need to go. And he swears it's the worst tasting thing he ever tasted in his life. But miraculously, and doctors can't explain it, his broken back healed faster than 5-6 times faster than it ever should have.
So Bigfoot's a primate mammal of some sort?
Well, that's always been the belief, is that they're mammals. I mean, they're supposed to be just as intelligent as humans, if not more intelligent. I mean, they stay away from humans, so I kind of give them that. But
if they're more intelligent of humans, then wouldn't it be within reason to say that they probably then have their own versions of tools and weapons, and maybe not an AK-47 because that's a human thing, but probably their own way of defending themselves versus some primitive way of being?
Oh, they don't need it. They're 7 foot tall. They're 500 to 800 pounds, depending on who you talk to. They don't need
but don't you level up?
They are weapons.
But don't you level up to your threat? If the humans are evolving and creating these bombs and these guns, wouldn't you, if you're smarter than the humans, then want to make sure you're able to protect yourself from these bombs and these guns?
Well, they also know the humans are not going out looking for them. They also know that we're not, at least most humans are not going out looking for them actively. They know that. I mean, they have to, because we are not in the woods. They stay in the deep woods. They stay in the Olympic Project in Washington. They stay there. They stay in the woods of Canada, in the woods of New York mountains, where no man is really traversing. And think about all the cave systems on the west and east coast of America, right around where all the missing 411 people happen to disappear. So, I mean, it's all kind of coincidental to me, if you ask me. They have plenty of places to hide and to live without people ever bothering them, except for the rare occasion. And the ones that do bother them on rare occasions, maybe they're the missing 411s. So, I mean, as another little fan of mine, Josh, just said, they creep. That's why you see them looking out from trees or looking out from bushes. They ain't gonna walk straight up to you and be like, "Hi, I'm Paul." No, they're gonna stand in the edge of the woods and watch you, see what you're doing, and then maybe if they seem like you're trustworthy and they don't want to bother you, then maybe they'll come out and be like look at you a little closer. Or, I mean, I've also heard stories of them looking in people's windows and stuff in the deep woods, but who knows? I don't know these people personally. I can't say if anything they say is true, but that's just, I mean, every story you hear about them from sightings, they're in the woods. You don't ever see them running across a highway or in the middle of Chicago or New York City. You don't hear about seeing them. They know how to hide because they just rather not be bothered with us because they're smarter than us. I mean, I wish I could avoid humans all day, every day, but I can't.
Don't want to creep.
Because they are a little reluctant, because they're animals, just like us. If I saw something that I didn't really fully trust in my woods, which has happened, I would definitely be creeping at my window like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Why is that thing sniffing over there? 100%. When there was a bear outside my trailer in New York, you think I went outside? Oh, hell no. But I was looking out every window, watching it go along my trailer until it got to my trash and ate my trash, and then watched it walk back in the woods. Because I'm a creep and make sure I know what it's doing. But I ain't going to go try to confront it. Oh, hell no. That was a big brown bear. I ain't going against that thing. I'm a big man, but I can't beat no bear. Barehanded, at least. Aha. But, I mean, so that's my theory. I mean, they exist, but they just avoid humans because they learned over the years it's a better thing to do than try to mess with humans. Because the humans we mess with, they're going to try to hunt us. Josh has a good point. And yeah, I mean, how many stories have you heard in the past? A good point, Josh, about children going missing in the woods for 8, 9 hours during the day, and the parents can't find them, and they show up 40 miles, like 20, 40 miles away from where they were, and you hear that, oh, it was a big bear, or it was a big hairy man that helped me survive. Like sometimes 3 days, 4 days later, the kids will show up and like, it's like, excuse me, a bear helped you? No, a bear would eat you. They wouldn't help you. So, I mean, I most likely in most of those cases, I think it's a Bigfoot because bears aren't going to help children. I mean, maybe sometimes, I don't know. Bears can be friendly under certain circumstances, I've heard, but I mean, what's his name? Grills, what the hell his name is? The guy who lived with
Bear
bears.
Grylls.
Yeah, Bear Grylls. I mean, I don't know how the hell I forgot that, but but I mean, so I mean, I don't know, but in those stories even too, it sounds more like a Bigfoot than like a bear, because I don't know how a bear would take care of a child anyway, other than throwing it some fish maybe. But what the hell's a kid gonna do with fish? He's not gonna eat a raw fish. So, who knows? But let's jump to another creature because it's time to jump to my second favorite cryptid, Mokele Umbembe and living dinosaurs.
Huh. Another something I don't know about.
View Beyond has a good point too before we go off. But we know nothing. That's the point. We know nothing because we are human.
That's
And
what
we
I keep
barely-
trying to tell you, though, because you're asserting these very big statements as fact and truth based on
Theories.
stories. But
Theories.
you say it so, but this is how this is, and this is how big feet are, and this is how and they are smarter than humans, and it's like, we don't know that. We are humans, and we only know what we have experienced. You have stories you've heard, you've had pictures you've seen, but have you met a Bigfoot? Have you talked to a Bigfoot? Have you been saved by a Bigfoot? So in the end, there's things that we put together, we piece together, right?
Hi.
That we believe is truth or not truth, but we don't know.
Hi, I'm Bigfoot. I'm Bigfoot. I'd like to introduce you to the Church of Latter-day Saints. Because you asked if I've been saved by Bigfoot, but I mean,
I know. I'm just saying, and that's not me saying Bigfoot doesn't exist. I guess what I'm saying is we have all these encounters that people talk about. We have pictures and recordings of Bigfoot sounds by the Bigfoot Society that people have encountered, and that's not nothing, right? That is exactly, Joshua. That is why these groups exist, so we can find out. But to say these big statements is fact, like this is how big feet are, this is what they are, we don't know that. We can try and piece it together. We can try and work together to figure it out, but we don't know if they are aliens from another planet. We don't know if they were always here and just another species that evolved alongside us. We as humans can't be the only thing that evolved this quickly in 500, 600 years. We can't be the only thing that has evolved that quickly. Maybe they started alongside us or a lot older than us, and they've evolved as quickly, but they decided, man, I'm not going that industrial route. I'm going to stay over here doing my thing. You guys are going to ruin it yourselves. You're probably going to make yourselves go extinct. Have a good time with that. Have a great adventure. But ultimately, we just don't know. We don't know what ghosts and demons and Bigfoot and Chupacabra and all these things are. But we can try. We can try to talk to each other and figure out. But until we talk to a Bigfoot, We don't know. Until we talk to the prison wardens, we don't know. So we're just trying to make our best theories and guesses that we can.
Well, one, Josh is looking at me like go like this the whole time because I'm just sitting here waiting. This is like he knows it's coming.
I
But
don't think he's disagreeing. He's saying agree and right. So
oh
I
no,
don't.
no, no, no. That's a Josh. I meant John. Too many J's in this room.
Oh, I was gonna
But,
say. I see Josh saying like.
but I mean, I also said in the beginning, these are my theories. These are not facts I am stating by any freaking means because I had no way of knowing this shit 100%. It's just my theories. But I will say this: same as in prison, the wardens let a lot of anal play go on with the between the other guards and the prisoners. So I mean, I'm just saying. But
Ashley's face.
but okay, well, she's
Joshua, though, we're here to talk about it. We're here to explore. 'Cause
exactly.
That's how we learn. But I think when we are so set in our statements and belief systems
No.
as though
These
they
are
are
theories.
fact, that ends up kind of stopping the conversation.
Joshua, unnecessary but funny. So it's my show, so I'll say what I want to say. But yes, as I said in the beginning, these are theories. Yes, that Josh. But I 100% like. See, I believe what I believe. Do I expect anybody else to believe what I believe? Oh hell no! If everybody in this world believed what I believed, the world would not be as good a place as it is. Like 100%. To some degree, there's good in everybody. I truly believe it.
Yes, I agree.
But we all have our evil sides. That's just humanity. But I mean, so yeah, these are all my theories. Do not, listeners, do not you two think anything I say is proven fact because it's not. If I had proven fact of any of this, trust me, I would let you know. Except the government's watching me. But no,
it shuts down your computer when you talk about alien experiences.
Yes.
No, it does not. Though I did before I started this show, I did try out to be a co-host of another paranormal show, and she got shut down previously because of talking about flat Earth. So just putting that out there. Though I don't believe it. I'll say right now I don't believe in flat Earth as far as I can throw it. But Hollow Earth, that's another story, and we'll get to that in a minute because we were talking about Macaulay Mbembe and living dinosaurs. And I'll just start this off by saying there is Macaulay Mbembe, who, even if you haven't heard of him, he is a brontosaurus type creature who lives in the Congo somewhere, and they have been seen by natives for hundreds and hundreds of years. And there's also I believe it's Chile, but there's a South American country, I'm pretty sure 90% sure it's Chile at this point. And there is a tribe there that worships raptors that live in the woods, like velociraptors type raptors. And there have also been reports of pterodactyls / pteranodons in the American Southwest for the last in white man time since the 60s, 70s. And if you want to go back further, Native Americans might misidentify them as thunderbirds. So, I mean, there's 3 different examples right there of possible living dinosaurs on this earth, and I'm not even jumping into the whole ocean of sea monsters and whatnot. Josh, skinwalkers do not count as living dinosaurs. That's a whole different thing. That's Native American curses right there. That's what that is. But so, what is your theory? I mean, I'm not jumping into the Loch Ness or the sea monster side of this because it's just a whole nother topic. But what do you think about the idea of terrestrial on land or in air, I guess, living dinosaurs?
Oh, hell, I don't know. I think it's possible. I think the more we get in technology, we're going to find whether it's probable. Because cameras are everywhere. we are starting to monitor everything, from satellites, from drones to every like people are connecting cameras across the world. There's areas we don't have cameras, which is why I think Bigfoot, is potentially able to be in those deep woods and cave systems because we don't have cameras in there. People aren't going in there. In terms of living dinosaurs, now we're talking about birds in the sky. That's where it gets a little trickier, right? Because we do have things monitoring the air. So then the question becomes, if there are living dinosaurs, specifically the birds in the sky, how are they able to exist under the radar?
Well, put it this way. I don't know. I believe it was, and it's not my own example, but it's the one I start with. There was, I believe, it was a Monsters and Mysteries in America segment where it reenacted in the 60s or 70s in, I want to say, Texas. 7, 8-year-old boy getting picked up from his front yard by a pterodactyl and carried about 4 or 5 houses down the road while the father and the neighbors shot at it. And then eventually it dropped the boy and flew off. But multiple adults grown people saw this thing and reported it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on Monsters and Mysteries in America. And there's been plenty of other reports, too, of people seeing it. There's been footage of them in, I want to say, L.A., possibly like around the airport flying around. Which, I have my theories for this, but I want to hear birds are fish and fish are birds. Josh, what the hell are you talking about? But
Josh was having a good time. I'll have whatever you're taking. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Some?
Do you have a drink? A good Moscow Mule? I'll take it.
I mean, I'm like on my 5th long drink, but still, I mean, but I mean, Josh, and yes, we do have living dinosaurs such as alligators and whatnot, and Komodo dragons and all that stuff. We know
Birds.
that birds. Yeah, that's. I mean, I have chickens in my yard, and they look like freaking dinosaurs when they walk. I will say that.
Absolutely.
But they look like velociraptors when they walk. I swear to God, without arms.
Oh yeah, when you sit there and watch them enough, they definitely do for sure. I agree with you on that. I mean,
just the way they walk, it like reminds me of watching Blue in Jurassic World. But do you believe that they're? I mean, because we're talking about the Congo, we're talking about the Amazon, like.
Okay, but you said LA, so where do they live?
Caves.
With the Bigfoot.
Well, no. Well, who knows? Maybe Bigfoots are like the Fred Flintstones now. They have the pterodactyls as pets.
For sure.
But
they're pterodactyls.
I mean,
loose.
I don't, because I think they live in the desert. When Bigfoot do live in the desert, I mean, they call them. Me and Derek were just talking about this. In the Oso Borrego Triangle, they call them something else. They call them like not sandmen, but like there's another name for them. But yeah, I mean, there are plenty of caves in the West Coast, in the desert especially, where these things could live and live deep enough in caves where they never get found by humans, or humans walk right past them when they're exploring caves. I mean, they could be sleeping during the day and humans walk right past them like bats. Like, who knows? But I mean, they've been seen multiple times. It wasn't just on a TV show. They've been seen a lot of times in the West Coast, especially in Southwest. And they've also been seen other places as well, like around the world. So, I mean, it's whatever I just want to hear what you believe. I don't expect you to agree with me. I mean, you agree with me or disagree with me, it's not going to make a difference to me. I just want to hear what you believe.
That's the thing, though. I don't know what to believe. And at the end of the day, just because I haven't experienced it, I'm not going to discredit it, like, because I'm just in a circle in like a very big world and a very big universe. I've just got a little circle of perception, and my perception, is my reality. But at the same token, just because I haven't experienced something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And so with that said, could living dinosaurs be real? Absolutely. But how to conceptualize that, the where, the how, stuff like that, that's where I'm curious. I'm not even like trying to disprove it. I'm curious. Wow, that could be really cool. That could be cool if that is existing, if like living dinosaurs still exist, because that would mean that they're older, right? Their lineage is older than us. And so then it's like, oh man, that's cool. But where did they come from? How did they not die? during, whatever massive extinction occurred. And now that they're still present, sweet, but how and where and what? And those kind of
Well,
things start to cycle through my brain.
I will say, this is when the hollow earth theory comes into play a little bit, is when people start saying, how did they exist for so long? I mean, we've all seen Kong vs. Godzilla, and we all understand the basics of the hollow earth theory because of those movies. But the hollow earth theory has been around a lot longer than those movies have. And what if the earth is, I mean, we know the earth is hollow to some degree because the eastern cave system from like Pennsylvania all the way down to Georgia, Florida, it all connects at some point. Maybe humans can't get through it all, but there's other things that could. And supposedly, back in the day, Native Americans used to take spiritual treks through all the caves from one end of the country to the other, or what we call a country. They didn't call it a country, obviously, but they used to walk from one end of the cave to the other. Like that was their spiritual trek. So,
yeah, I mean, tunnel systems exist even in our newer, I say new loosely in the grand scheme of the Earth's age, even in our newer existence of where we are now, evolution wise, people are hella obsessed with tunnel systems, and being underground, connecting things beneath the earth versus above the earth. And so, yeah, that's absolutely possible and a thing. And I mean, John knows, I think that in a lot of these older tunnel systems, there probably are creatures that exist there that have never seen the light of day. I mean, we hear about it where they discover new creatures all the time. Like there's that creature they discovered in caves that has evolved with 0 eyes. Like there are no eyes on its face because it doesn't need the eyes, because it developed and evolved and exists in caves where it doesn't need it. And so it's like, yeah, it is possible. They're living dinosaurs. And it is possible that they're big feet and chupacabras and stuff like that. My curiosity is, what does it mean if they do exist? Like, let's say they are real, they do exist, we prove it. What does that mean? What does that look like then?
well,
Is it better that we don't prove they exist for their sake? Like,
it is.
what
It
does
is.
it look like?
For the idea of living dinosaurs, I 100% believe it's better if we don't prove, because we've all seen how Jurassic Park turns out. We've all seen it, and I mean, getting the DNA from freaking mosquito and amber is one thing. Getting it from an actual living source would be hell, and there are too many rich billionaires in this world that would want to take advantage of that. I 100% agree, but I mean, it's funny though, because Macaulay Mbembe in the African language that it comes from, it's somewhere in the Congo. I always forget where the hell it's from, but it actually means it who blocks the river. So they actually named this thing because it blocks the flow of the river. Which, to name anything that, it has to be pretty damn big, because hippos don't block the flow of the river, rhinos don't block the flow of the river. Like, none of these things block the flow of the river. So if they're gonna name a creature after that, it has to be pretty freaking big. And a brontosaurus or something similar to that would be very about accurate. And there's stories of white men when they first got down there showing a book of animals to the natives and showing them a hippo. No, that's not it. That's not it. Showing them other animals that could be. Nope, nope. And then they happen to see another book laying there about dinosaurs, and they flip through it and they're like, that's it. And like, they're like, a brontosaurus, and they're like, yeah. And like, all the white people are like amazed, like, they died out millions of years ago. What are you talking about? Well, we've seen him. We see him on like a weekly basis. He comes out, eats, and goes back in the river. Like, and supposedly he's famous for killing hippos too. Just saying.
I mean, crocodiles can too, but I don't know. See, I was kind of, well, depending, but I was thinking, like, if they did exist, maybe they got smaller. Like, I know you're talking about like big brontosaurus, but maybe they got smaller so they can adapt into these smaller spaces. And I kind of agree with you on the hollow earth thing, but I still think maybe, my opinion, just they got smaller. So
I
they
can believe that
still
too.
could exist. So, yeah.
I mean, a brontosaurus, back from what we believed it looked like, would not just block a river. It would block like
A lot.
5 miles around the 5 miles around the river if it sat down. But
Right.
so I mean, getting smaller. I agree with that, and we've all seen the videos online that are supposed to be of baby like velociraptors and stuff like on a beach, and like not just Jurassic Park 2, but like actual We've all seen actual videos that, or what's supposed to be actual videos of like little dinosaurs running along a beach, and like on an island somewhere, and like it's not literally not the footage from Jurassic Park 2. It's like supposed to be real, but I don't know how much I believe any video I see online, because you just can't believe any video you see online nowadays.
Right.
It's just it's sad, but you can't. So, I mean, I feel like, why couldn't they exist? You know what? Maybe a couple of them decide to hide in some caves or decide to hide underwater when the meteor strike or whatever happened when the dinosaurs died out, and maybe they survived because of that, or maybe they were in caves or deep underground. Like, who knows? Like, that's when the Hollow Earth theory truly comes into effect, because maybe they were in the Hollow Earth when that happened. And this is the last thing I will say, and people always love this. If Antarctica, they only allow about 100, 200 people up to Antarctica at a time, and only if they're scientists doing research.
Okay.
But the general public's not allowed to go there. I mean, yes, because supposedly we freeze to death. But what if that's a Hollow Earth entrance, and what if that's the biggest freaking one, and that's why we're not allowed there? Think about it.
How are they getting out? How are the dinosaurs getting out then? If that's the
Well,
only
who's to say? Well, put it this way. I had someone else on my show tell me that they've heard stories of woolly mammoths being seen in Siberia, in like northern Russia, near like where the frozen tundra. So
Okay, but we're not the only ones with technology. Like, there's cameras, and like that's the thing. The Earth is not like the U.S. is not the only technologically advanced like people out there. Like everywhere you go now has some kind of technology. So if velociraptors are chilling on the beach, we're gonna get more than one video, right? Like, people go to Africa for the migration that takes place every year. Animals have patterns. It's not like just like humans have patterns. Even as irregular as we are, we tend to get into a routine and stick to it. Animals have patterns. We're not talking about dinosaurs that are aliens from another dimension. Dinosaurs that were here and somehow managed to continue existing, they're going to have patterns, because they are like any other animal on Earth that builds routine and patterns for survival. And so if the velociraptors come out to the beach every so often, people are going to have like that. Because then that would mean there's more than one entrance to the Hollow Earth. Otherwise, where else are they going?
Put it this way. Put it this way. I will gladly take that argument and say this. Who the hell is going to be in the frozen tundras of Russia with a fucking camera? Tell me this.
Who was there to see them?
From what I'm guessing, just someone passing through, kind of like on a military mission or something. But
exactly,
I mean,
and people have these
guys.
But
phones, cameras, yeah.
Like, that's my point. Like what you just said. Well, who's going to be there? The person who saw
it. Put it this way.
And went back and talked about it.
If I discovered any of these things, would I really want to share it with the world? You said about dogmen, or Bigfoot, but would I really want to share it with the world if I found these things? Like, knowing how humans are?
Then how do we know that the woolly mammoths are there? How do we know that do you see what I mean? Like, you can't have it both ways. If it's being reported, that means someone's feeling comfortable enough to talk about it and share it. So they probably would, like the guy in the 60s with the dogman. He's like, I saw something weird, so I stopped, pulled out a camera. This is the 60s. He didn't even have a cell phone to take a picture. He's like, I could have shot it, or he shot it, but with a camera and not a gun. And it's like, that's what people do. We're like curiously, like, we gotta do, because no one's gonna believe us. And so if stuff is being anything past when the camera is introduced, people are creatures about that, where it's like, I gotta get a picture, I gotta get footage. When people go hunting for Bigfoot, are they going without cameras? Because they're like, I want to stumble across and kumbaya with a Bigfoot, but I don't want to invade its privacy, so I'm going to leave my gear at home. No, they things to record
I
it,
would.
things to take pictures of it, things to video it. And you might be an exception, but let's be real. The Bigfoot hunts that people go on in the trucks, they are taking things to try and photograph, to get evidence.
Yeah,
When people go on paranormal investigations, what are they doing? They're setting up video cameras and photographs. And for what? For evidence?
Well,
But like, do you need the evidence if you're there with your gear because you're there? You want it because if it is real, you want to be able to prove it afterwards versus everyone's going to think I'm crazy. I got to have the proof. And that's the thing. We want to prove these things are real so that it's not crazy. So if we have these living dinosaurs, awesome. And I think time will tell because more and more and more cameras are in the sky. Cameras are everywhere. Google Earth. You have the pockets, which is kind of weird, of like nothing. But for the most part, we have cameras everywhere. And not just in the hands of the government. Like people have drones now. They're constantly flying, even when they're not supposed to. People
trust me, I know.
Like everything, people want to document everything. Like everything's on social media, right? Selfie here, everything there. And people are exploring more and more wild things because that's a trendy thing to do. So maybe they may get punched by Bigfoot, like get the fuck out of my forest. But I think that like ultimately, and I'm not discrediting evidence. I think basically what I'm saying is that we have a lot of contradicting statements going on. Like,
we do.
Well, there's only one
world.
there's only one entrance to or the main entrance, and it's like, but if they're everywhere in LA and they're on a beach and they're in the they're where'd you say, Africa? Like, there's more than one entrance because especially if they're able to go back into hiding, there's more than one entrance, and
there is
time will tell. Right? Time's gonna tell because the more and more we get eyes on the world, even if we don't want it, the more these things may not be able to hide as well. And
I agree.
Yeah, and so I think time will tell. And do I think like dinosaurs could exist? Sure. And you know why? Because once upon a time we were floating amoebas in the earth when it was just an ocean. And we got out of there and evolved into different creatures. So could dinosaurs still exist? Absolutely. Because their DNA continued on. Do I think that there's a dinosaur on Earth right now that existed 50,000 years ago and has got like hella life longevity? No. I think you have baby dinosaur that came from great ancient line of dinosaurs that line just continued to evolve. That's my thought anyways, but that's just because of lifespan and the way animals work.
I mean, I agree. I feel like Macaulay Membe is not just one. I feel like it has to be a family. And I feel like it has to be, maybe they are big. Because you know what? The last places cameras are ever going to get to is the middle of the Congo and the middle of the fucking Amazon and Chile. Like, that's the last place cameras will ever get to. Because there are still tribes out there, or people that we have not met, that have not interacted with humans or never seen a white man or other human. They still exist. They're just deep in the woods where no one goes in the Amazon and the Congo because we have no reason to go that far because the government also protects their local governments also protect them. Like they met their government at some point maybe and said like, we don't want to be disturbed, and the local government was like, okay, we're good with that. Go back to your area.
Which government are we talking about? Protects their people.
South American, African. I mean, there are governments out there that will protect the people from being bothered. I mean, I think I read a official report like a year or two ago that said there's still 23 tribes out there that prefer to be untouched by modern man, that they don't want any technology. They just want to be living their primitive ways still. A lot of them are on little small islands in like the Pacific and the Indian Ocean, but they exist out there as well. So if they can exist out there, who's to say what else exists out there we can't see yet? And yes, cameras are everywhere and satellites are everywhere, but you look in a jungle from a satellite, you see trees. You ain't seeing shit else.
Not yet, but I mean, with technology advancing and everything else, they're going to get in there. Will we see it in our lifetime? No. In the kids' lifetime? Probably not. Maybe their kids, but Who knows?
I don't know. Technology has advanced so fast, and it just seems to be like hyperspeed jumping that I think it's possible. Maybe at the end of ours, but I think definitely in our kids.
No, I don't think our kids even, because put it
He
this way,
is just like
the
a
world.
naysayer. If it's not his theory, he like shuts it down fast.
Not true. I do agree. I mean, I picked up a lot of these theories from people I talked to on this show, and like they influence me. But I mean, the way I see it is, the world has bigger things to worry about than if these creatures exist,
So
and that's what
government,
the government.
you said things that mix together, and I'd like to, before we go too far off track, governments in Africa and South America do not protect their tribes. They exploit them. That's very like I understand the tribes that hide so far in that people just haven't gotten to them, but the governments absolutely do not protect those tribes. That's why we've seen corrupt governments fall and people asking like for help because their lands are being taken from them and capitalized off of, and resources that should be theirs. Like I just watched a documentary on Africa where tribes that have zero, like they don't even have running water, have to pay for food because their government won't allow them to hunt because they save it for other people to come in and pay to hunt. And so it's like, do governments protect these tribes that want to be off the grid? No, I completely disagree, because we see time and time again on the news these tribes being exploited and pushed off their land, and all of the resources, as soon as it's like that resource can be like exported out, taken away from them and cut down. I think they're allowed to stay in places where they can't exist when it's not a resource. But we see that even in our own government, right? Like people once land is discovered to be like good for whatever crop or sourcing, then it's like, okay, well, you got to get off of that. It's ours now because we can make money off of it. And so I don't think that these tribes are off grid because they're being protected. I think it's just they haven't been explored yet. Their land hasn't been found to be worth being in.
Well, that's not necessarily true in every case, though. I mean,
you just said Africa and South America, two very big countries known for their governments actually hurting their tribes and their
yes,
not protecting their people.
There are cases of that, but I said Africa and South America but I didn't say country specifically. I said them as a continent in general. There are certain governments in that continent that do protect, and it's over in Asia too, like in the Indian Ocean. Because I know that's where one of the main ones I'm talking about. They live on an island, and if tourists try to go near the island, they will straight up try to kill you. Like it's said to this day, they'll straight up try to kill tourists. They try to go to the island, and I mean, I think I read this in like Time magazine or something a couple years ago in a doctor's office. There are at that time there was like 23 tribes known of that do not want human interaction from people who are not living like them still, or are not part of their tribe, born into it, and they will fight, either they'll fight people who come to their place, or the government in the country they live in protects them and like sign a treaty saying like they can have their land. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. A View Beyond said it. Sentinel Island. That's the one I'm talking about. That's the island. That's the one I'm talking about. I couldn't think of the name, but being the X-Men fan I am, I should have saw that. But
I remember seeing something about that, and I think you were right. I think it was in Time magazine, because I remember seeing something about that, and I don't read Time magazine at all.
Them, though. That's not true. They don't protect them. They have banned their citizens because they're violent. So, but that's not the same thing as protecting them. They ban their citizens from going there and interacting with them and trading with them. It's illegal, but that's not the same thing as protecting the island because they want to protect the tribe.
Well, but it kind of works both ways, and and they're definitely gonna play it off like they want to protect the tribe, because that's what governments do. Like if they can't get there, they're gonna be like, oh well, we're protecting them, so we're gonna keep our people away from them. Like that's how they're gonna play it off, because that's what governments do. They play everything off in their favor. But I mean, the United States has been doing that for the last 60 years. But
yeah,
but it has gotten Whoa, I did not realize we were recording that long. Even time flies when you're having great debates in the paranormal people. I'm telling you.
And I
So-
just want to still follow up and say it's not that I disagree or believe any of this is not real. I absolutely always fall back in the stance that I just don't know. But it is fun to talk about.
Yeah, I'm not saying I know shit either. I mean, ask my wife. I don't know shit, but
I know nothing.
100%. I asked my wife; she'll agree with you. But
I know nothing about nothing. That's where I fall back on.
I know plenty about TV shows and movies. Beyond that, I know nothing. So I will say
I know everything about nothing. So.
You are very smart about nothing.
Absolutely.
Wait, what?
Okay. You so just sound like the one female from What We Do in the Shadows. But I thank the two of you for coming on this show so much. It was a great crossover, and I honestly can't wait for people to hear this episode. This episode is going to be bomb. And
I probably pissed a lot of listeners off.
Right.
Nope. We have had 4 steady watchers for the last hour or so.
Wow. Good job.
And none of them have dropped off because of anything we said. Unless someone replaced them right away. So, which is a possibility, but a low one at this time of night in the East Coast. I mean, the rest of the world, I don't know. I mean, it's 11 a.m. in Japan apparently, so actually probably noon now. But
yeah.
So, where can they find your show? Where can they find everything about you guys if they want to find more? Let the listeners know.
We are on Spotify, Apple. We are on YouTube even with just our audio for now.
We're on every major podcast.
Anything.
Actually, even minor ones. We're on everywhere you can find podcasts.
Yes.
And the name again is 3 Haunted. It's 3 Haunted Podcasts, even though there's only 2 of them. And
it's the number 3
yes.
Haunted, all one word. So no space, 3 Haunted Podcasts. And, I like to think of it that between the ghost that lurks and his background and random visits we always have 3. We just don't always know it.
Exactly. I like to consider the ghost in our logo is our 3rd. Little ghostie's our 3rd all the time. So,
and if you like horror cons and comic cons and all those things this year and on, we're going to start making appearances at those. Might be doing some live streaming from a few of them. So it's a fun time with 3 Haunted Podcasts. We love to talk about all the things. We love meeting new people. Like, it was awesome experiencing this with you, Jeremy. Thank you for proposing this crossover at a blast. And I definitely want to look more into these living dinosaurs because I think that's super cool. Like, I'm a big fan of Jurassic, all the Jurassic Park world, everything. And I think the idea of dinosaurs being alive still, in some way, direct lineage, not like chickens, would be flippin' amazing and awesome.
I just have to say, I like Josh. He's writing all kinds of stuff in the comments. Josh.
Thank you for being a part of it, Josh. Joshua.
Oh God. Yeah. Josh likes to watch. Josh watches some of our show. Watches this show sometimes. He watches Global Strangers sometimes. He was our number 1 fan of Global Strangers, and he stopped showing up. So, and now we have no fans. So,
I want to actually. He said come to Florida. I actually want to do Spooky Empire at some point with the 3 Haunted. That would be really cool to go broadcast from Spooky. I'm trying to think what other horror cons are out there. I don't in Florida. Walker Stalker. Is Walker Stalker still there? I don't know.
I think they stopped that one.
Okay.
COVID killed a lot of things in the world, but yeah. So we thank 300 for coming on, and I will be back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week. I'm pretty sure with more episodes on streaming on Parapost. So I am a busy man.
Yeah, you are. I can barely handle once a week, and you're boom, killing it almost all week.
Right?
Teach me your ways.
Yeah, my wife loves it so much, but it's fine. I gives me plenty of content, and I got podcast booked through September at this point, so I'm happy. So,
does your wife ever do appearances?
Ever do what?
like podcast guest host or a podcast?
No. Anxiety and shyness don't let that happen. But
Understandable.
Because I want to know about the alien and paranormal experiences. That would be
I
awesome.
know. I'm super curious about that for sure.
Trust me. If I can get her on my show, I freaking would.
Yeah, but you do video, and that's big, like anxiety trigger. I wonder if she do audio.
I didn't used to. I used to do Zoom recordings, but I never actually used the audio. I mean the video.
Yeah.
I never used the video. So, and I used to. So, and Josh, you don't have to apologize, buddy. It's okay. I understand. Work is work. You can't always be there to watch podcasts.
Work sucks, man.
Luckily, I work from home now, so I work on my podcast a lot of the day. So, yay! But, I know it's a benefit, but
definitely.
And we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you, 300, one last time for coming on, and Ashley and John may be back at some point. I don't know. I may have to do a reunion at some point.
Heck yeah!
You might not like me anymore.
Oh, if I hate every girl that disagreed with me, I would have no friends.
I'll
put it that way.